Good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to the UWI Open Campus panel discussion. I especially want to welcome those persons viewing with us from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Today, I have with me a selection of panelists, starting with our student, Chloe Esteva, who studied political science with a minor in economics degree at the UWI Open Campus. She has served and represented the student body in various capacities to ensure their overall well-being. We also have with us Professor Clyde Landis, who is an experienced medical researcher and university administrator, who serves currently as Pro-Vice Chancellor for the Board for Undergraduate Studies, the University of the West Indies. He researches the immune system and viruses, established viruses like HIV, as well as emerging viruses like Zika and SARS-CoV-2. Professor Landis is also chair of the UE COVID-19 task force. Our third panelist is Arnika Noel, who serves as a course delivery supervisor with the Program Delivery Division of the Academic Programming and Delivery Division. She leads a team that is committed to supporting facilitators to deliver courses in accordance with the standards of the Open Campus and to ensuring students receive the quality of instruction promised in the student charter. Arnika is also a proud student of the Open Campus. Next, we have our Deputy Principal of the Open Campus, Dr. Francis Severin, who previously served as the Director of the Open Campus Country Sites, which is the most and the largest and most distinguished and distributed division within the Open Campus. He led this distributed division over two accreditation periods to 2012 to 2018 and 2019 to 2026. We then have Ms. Susan Utah, who is a Senior Administrative Assistant in the Assessment, Awards, and Records Department, or examinations as we call it, within the registry. She's also a Chief Union Delegate for the Mona Administrative and Technical Staff Association, Mona Jamaica, and represents all UWI Open Campus staff in that bargaining unit. And last but not least, we have Dylan Doyle, who is employed in an Employment Relations Specialist and Trainer. His substantive post is Program Officer Acting at the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute of the UWI Open Campus. He's also an adjunct lecturer at the Mona School of Business and Management, where he teaches employment relations. So you can see that we have a very distinguished panel. And the reason why we're here today is because today is World Quality Day. And the Chartered Quality Institute, under whose remit the World Quality Day concept is advanced, notes that this day provides an ideal opportunity for organizations to showcase individuals, teams, and other organizations that have made significant contributions to creating and improving customer value. It further states that in a world of ever-increasing customer expectations, competition, and technological change, businesses are striving to be seen as partners in the eyes of their stakeholders. This panel today will discuss the varying ways in which the university and the Open Campus has provided a quality response to customers' needs during COVID-19. Each of these well-qualified panelists will explore how the customer-centric responses has helped the university and the campus to recognize that customers and not only the university has a role in the definition of quality, understand quality through the eyes of the customer, share services of high quality with customers, and collaborate with customers to improve quality and resolve problems. To achieve this, panelists will focus on two main points: COVID-19, the UWI's response, and the Open Campus response. So each of our panelists will have just about 5 minutes to speak to you. So we'll start first with Chloe Esteva.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela Doughton. Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Landis, Open Campus Deputy Principal, Dr. Francis Severin, other members of the esteemed panel, students, and viewers. A courteous good afternoon to you all. I'm truly honored to be among you today. During World Quality Day, as was previously said, we recognize the individuals and organizations that encourage a culture of putting their customers first. Hence our theme, quality response to customers' needs during COVID-19. I think we all discovered very early on that this would be life-changing and challenging. As you may imagine, it has not been easy, but I'm very proud of the UWI Open Campus, where it concerns the response to such an unprecedented event, the coronavirus. Shep Hyken, a customer service expert, said, "Satisfaction is a rating, loyalty is a brand." This quote has been magnified by the Open Campus, as even in the midst of a pandemic, our students remained loyal to the Open Campus. And I know for a fact, a lot of that credit is due to our response. The services and assistance offered by the university to facilitate the teaching and learning process, and further to assist with coping with the drastic changes and the effects of the coronavirus. I think it's safe to say that we lived up to our rank as the #1 university in the region and among the top 5% in the world. Thank you.
Pamela, you're muted.
Thank you very much. I particularly like that quote. Satisfaction is a rating and loyalty is a brand. That's an excellent quote. I'm sure we will come back to that a little later. Prof. Landis, we want to hear from you now about the UWI's response to the COVID-19.
Well, thank you very much, Pamela, and welcome everyone to this panel, especially the student. The students are our main customers, and in this UWI Quality Day in 2020, the theme is creating customer value. When I think about how the university responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, I actually think that it was more about preserving customer value, and particularly in contrast to what other universities' responses have been. So when the first case of COVID-19 struck on March the 10th, the university had not only already established a UWI COVID-19 task force, the task force had already published the UWI COVID-19 management framework and the whole management plan. So when the first case came, we were already ready. And as the country responses became clear that it was leading to shutdowns and lockdowns of various sorts, we then moved to the next level, and we did an epidemiological projection of where the epidemic would be going. So we're very, very fortunate at UWI to be able to draw on so many skilled people who were in the task force. It's quite a large task force, about 20 people, because not only do you need epidemiologists and virologists and critical care physicians, but you also need psychologists, psychiatrists, you need gender experts, you need communication experts. So we were able to draw upon this talent pool to make a projection, and the projection we made was that it would not be ethical or safe to conduct face-to-face exams. We didn't think it would be efficient either. And so we committed ourselves in the middle of March to fully online exams, fully online teaching as well. It has to be said that the Open Campus they just sort of looked at us and went, well, what else is new? You know, the Open Campus just carried on almost as if nothing had happened. There was actually no interruption in teaching whatsoever to the Open Campus. There was an interruption of maybe a week or two as the other campuses retooled their offerings to go fully online. And then particularly as it related to the online assessments, you know, if teaching and learning is tricky online, assessments online are really tricky. And many universities, you know, really threw in the towel. They either discontinued teaching, or in many cases, they discontinued exams and assessments. And that causes an interruption to the main customer value for a student is the progression of their academic and professional career. and it had a very devastating impact on students all over the world. But I would like to think that at UWI, because we were ready with the task force, we had already planned how we would deliver teaching and do our assessments, that there was a relatively limited impact. And so we were able to preserve the customer value during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. And, recognizing that many students were quite stressed by the experience, the psychosocial unit within the task force did a survey, and we had over 6,000 responses from students, found that they were actually very stressed during this time. And in this pie chart, for anxiety, for example, you normally have 4 quadrants. So you have severe, moderate, limited, and then no impact. Well, in our pie chart, there were only 3 quadrants because everybody had some form of impact from the coronavirus epidemic. And actually 2/3 of students had either moderate or severe anxiety. So based on this knowledge that we undertook on our student population, we decided for that particular semester, which was disrupted in ways that could not have been foreseen by the students or us, that any failure would be treated differently. So there would be no academic penalty. We had this thing called a fail minus penalty policy that we introduced. And I think the students appreciated this because it took a burden off their mind, so there could be no specter of being put on an academic warning or being asked to withdraw after this COVID semester. So I think with all these measures that we took, we were able to maintain the customer value, the normal progression of our students during this very difficult time. And we've just sought in the interim to use the tenets of the quality policy to further strengthen our online assessments so that we're always continually improving those. So I would say those were the main ways in which we were able to uphold quality and also answer the questions of creating customer value during this time of COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Prof. And, as I listened to you, one of the things that I recognized was the proactive approach which the UWI took to the COVID-19, which suggests that, as you said, that we were not just creating, we were maintaining customer value, and if you like, enhancing customer value during the COVID period. So thank you very much for that. We'll come back to you a little later. Next, we'll hear from Ms. Arnika Noel.
Thank you, Dr. Doughton, and good day to my fellow panelists and to everyone who's viewing us. As Professor Landis mentioned, it was about just maintaining the quality of our customer value service. And as the open campus, we really just did what we are accustomed doing and knew that we were in a great position to assist our sister campuses and other regional bodies to be able to do a bit of what we do. So I'm just blessed to work among the colleagues that I work among, because we just knew all at the same time, this is something we just need to do. We need to listen to the needs of our students. We need to reach out to our sister campuses and persons throughout the region who need to be able to make that transition to online, so that there wouldn't be that too much of a delay in the instruction. So regarding our students, Professor Landis did mention some of the accommodations that we made. Internally, what we did was to be able to reach out to students, devise mechanisms to hear directly from the students what their circumstances are and how best we can support them. We also were able, with the support of the COVID-19 task force emotional unit, we were able to host student meetings to really listen to the students, really try to equip them with some coping mechanisms so that they now can go on to support either themselves or their families Our director met with our students a couple times just to ensure that they know that we are with them as they're going through towards the end of that semester and preparing for the beginning of the summer semester. The students know that they could reach out for counseling support if that is something that's needed. Our facilitators were exceptional in terms of being able to really listen to the needs of the students and make extensions where necessary. And it really was, it was a beautiful thing to see the entire team together. As the experts in the online teaching and learning, what we're able to do is immediately reach out to our face-to-face short courses at the sites to provide support for our site or our site techs so that they can support their students and facilitators to bring their programs online. We were able to extend that, as I mentioned, to our sister campuses, and then we were able to reach out to the various ministries of education throughout the Caribbean and other educational institutions and organizations so that we can guide them in the very thing that we do on a regular basis, which is online teaching and learning. So we're able to guide their use of the various web conferencing technologies, the Moodle learning management platform, just go through with them the differences between student engagement in the face-to-face context as opposed to online, things that they need to do differently as they engage with students online, the way that they need to prepare their students to now function effectively on that on an online platform. So we just knew that we needed to do everything that we can to support everyone to make that transition to online as effective, as smooth as possible, listening to where the needs are and coming together as a campus to see how best we can support each other internally, checking in with each other, and how best we can support our brothers and sisters throughout the region. Just that, and we continue to work towards serving our customers, our students primarily, and our various brothers and sisters throughout the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I particularly like when you talked about the fact that making the facilitators aware that the teaching and learning process is slightly different in the face-to-face environment than in the online environment. And that is something that sometimes we forget, and we sometimes assume that because someone can facilitate well in a face-to-face environment, that they're just as well, can do just as well in the online environment. So thank you very much for bringing that point out so strongly for us. Next, we'll come to Dr. Francis Severin, the current Deputy Principal of the Open Campus. Dr. Severin.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Doughton, and thanks for your gracious hosting of this panel discussion. I want to also add my very warm welcome to all my fellow panelists, and also a special happy World Quality Day to all those who are joining us, and thank God for the technology as well as the social media, Open Campus live stream, Facebook, and Twitter. We have unmistakable and demonstrable pride in what the Open Campus has managed to achieve. And we really underscore the fact that we have responded in a quality fashion to our customers' needs during COVID-19. And I want to underscore what PVC Landis said, that we did not miss a heartbeat. And I think this can be contextualized in the sense of, when you think that we are in a distributed environment, okay? Physical presence in 16 countries, 50 plus physical locations, 40 plus bank accounts and 9 currencies, 20,000 plus students and learners from 17 different Caribbean countries and 14 extra regional countries, 500 full-time staff, 800 adjuncts, both regionally and internationally. We have 8 bargaining units. I think when you add this to the equation, the mix, I think we can appreciate that the Open Campus has done very well. And I think the Barbados advocate of Monday, October 9th, 2020, expressed this very elegantly. UWI Open Campus sailing over COVID wave. And if I should bring in a little history in this, I think that we have stuck true to the idea of being advocates and activists and infantry soldiers. And in fact, our Vice Chancellor says that fine universities are not established and funded to serve themselves, but to commit to engage the challenges facing host communities. And I think this is what we have done. You've heard Unica, and in fact, we had done, we reached out to our sister campuses, Hayville, St. Augustine, Mona, and Five Islands campus, and training them in using Blackboard Collaborate for online delivery, Moodle basics, and quite a number of faculty and staff were trained in that regard. 701 from Mona, 214 from St. Augustine, 3 from Hayville, and 19 from the Five Island campus. In semester 2, 2019-2020, 752 teachers were trained in order to facilitate our transition into our continuing and professional education courses from face-to-face to remote teaching. Again, these areas were in what I mentioned above, using Blackboard Collaborate for online delivery and Moodle basics. During the summer of 2020, an additional 176 were trained, bringing the total to 928. And we are proud of all of this. Interestingly, in semester 2, 2019-2020, 204 CPE courses were built for online teaching. In summer, 116 CPE courses were built for online teaching. So a lot of courses built in total. Essentially, what this really means is that for every course offered offline and recorded in Banner, a course shell was created for it. We did not stop, in a sense, engaging our staff and engaging our stakeholders. Our marketing and communications department did quite a lot, was engaged in quite a lot of activity. 2 online recruitment fairs. OC got stars, virtual concert. Our staff enjoyed this. They remained engaged in that regard. Multiple Facebook live sessions. 3 online fora in association with UETV and other partners. We had daily COVID-19 updates. So staff knew, and students as well, knew what was happening. There was a creation of a COVID-19 communicate template for country sites to standardize how we would communicate with our various publics throughout the Caribbean. The creation of an OC COVID-19 webpage, town hall meetings by our principal and members of the OCLT to keep that engagement going. Creating, we got this advertising campaign. So a lot of stuff. I want to commend our country heads, Open Campus country sites heads, for again, and their respective staff, for keeping the learner ecology going, for keeping their sites going, and of course, for sticking to the protocols that COVID-19 demanded. And our students, again, continue to feel at home. Our home-based work arrangement, I mean, the way that staff came together to move seamlessly towards this was a boon as well. We heard Chloe Estava, who are very proud of our student guild. And I want, as deputy principal, to really commend them and to thank them for sticking with us, sticking with the faith through thick and thin. And it has been thin most of the times in terms of the financial sense. But they understood and they worked with us in allowing the trajectory of the semester to continue. And as I mentioned that, I was very delighted, when the assistant registrar, student support and services, sent me a list of the kinds of support that we had continued to have: general technology training, technical support, Blackboard Collaborate technology training, e-portfolio training, help desk assistant technology training, Open Campus email box technology training, Open Campus website technology training, the learning exchange technology training. There was also the interface with the library. So the UE Link library technology training, Turnitin technology training. And, you know, we have been very busy in that regard. And I am very, very proud to be associated with the Open Campus. I really want to thank, and I need to remember the counseling. We kept up counseling, and we had a group of led by Cecile Minot with, you know, a whole crew, continuing our counseling for our staff and our students. And my heart is full. There's a lot that could be said. I know the time is limited, but I do want to thank, and it would be remiss of me if I don't thank our sister campuses for their support in all of this, but for all of our staff and students at all levels who have continued to support us and to stick with us and to keep the faith.
Thank you very much, Dr. Severin, for those remarks. And, you know, as you spoke, one of the things that really popped into my head was that, you know, in this world of miscommunication and misinformation, that it was really refreshing to have two sources of accurate information on the COVID-19 pandemic through the daily updates and the website. So thank you very much for highlighting those for us. Next, we'll come to Susan Utah. Susan, we're looking forward to your contribution.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Dottin. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I am a very proud employee of the University of the West Indies, and to be specific, the Open Campus. I'm very proud of the response, and when we think about the Open Campus, we were already online, and as such, even though it's a pandemic, we transitioned easily. We operate in a distributed environment, and for that reason, we were already online. So what has happened is that we extended our home-based arrangements for our staff, because there were already staff who were working on from home. So that was extended to include all staff, especially in the period of lockdown in the various islands. The Open Campus also and the university had regular briefings, and the information communicated via email was clear. It would have been difficult to have misunderstanding because the information shared was specific, and we were also advised to adhere to the country's COVID protocols as well. So it wasn't as if the Open Campus or the university was saying do this. They told us in addition to adhere to the country's protocol, because we operate in a distributed environment, and the different countries would have had their own COVID protocol. We also had controlled entry into buildings that remained open. We had information relating to health and safety. We had information relating to counseling, and counseling service was also provided. And that was very important, because we know that persons go into depression for various reasons. And when you're used to a certain lifestyle and now you're told to be standing 6 feet apart, you're told to be wearing masks, you're told to stay in your house, it can be distressing. And as such, persons would have gone into depression. So the counseling service was very important and welcome. We also want to thank the university's management team for the health and safety management policy, because it guided us in how we would do things, because, you know, we are from different social background, and so we would conceive things differently. So they guided us with that. And last but not least, I want to thank the staff, and specifically the ATS staff, because we have responded, we have adjusted, and we have cooperated with all that was said. We had to be present at offices and that site because the site could not close its borders, you know, quote unquote borders, as countries do. We still had students to support. There were things that we still had to visit the office to do. And so I just want to thank the staff for their cooperation. That was key because had the staff not cooperated, we would have had some disruptions. And so I'm standing tall being a staff of the university because the university is also assisting the different governments in terms of research. So it's a proud moment for me, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And you know, there are a couple of things that really came home to me as you spoke. And you talked about how precise the communication was that came out. And one of the things that you noted was that the university always made sure that the health of the staff members were put first. So it wasn't second to anything else. So it was all, we have these protocols, we have these work from home arrangements, but you must adhere to what is happening within your own country and what the government is saying. I want to remind viewers, please, to send your comments in, to send your questions in. We have a phenomenal, I can't pronounce it, we have an excellent panel who is who is willing to take these questions and to engage with you. So we want to hear from you. But last but not least, we have Dylan Doyle. And I'm going to invite you now to speak to us, Dylan.
All right, thank you, Dr. Dottin. And I want to say good afternoon to my fellow panelists and also good afternoon to all the viewers on the various platforms. In terms of the quality response to customers' needs during COVID-19, from my perspective, I'm going to speak a little bit more directly to the response of the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute, right, and how it dovetailed with the university's response. So the UWI and the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute has always been customer-centric. And in that, we have always had ongoing dialogue with all our stakeholders, internally and externally. So at the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, we just doubled down on what we have always done, right? We acted in line with the directives issued by the government of Jamaica because the institute is domiciled in Jamaica, and also what the UWI would have also indicated that we should adhere to. So while we took those on board, right, with the particular challenges faced first and foremost by our internal customers, and I'm speaking now about our staff and students, and out of that process, we were able to pivot. And first, what we did, we listened to them, and then we researched how COVID was affecting our wider constituents, right? And then we developed an action plan out of that, all the while anticipating how we could mitigate against the impact of COVID-19 on the lives of the people that we serve and also the university as the institution. And then we were able to we set about servicing the immediate needs of our customers. And this meant that we were able to retrain staff to use the prevailing technologies and to engage our stakeholders, right? And what we did again was a key factor was listening to our stakeholders, both our internal and external stakeholders, right? And then we were able to provide them with credible information about COVID-19 itself, and the impact it would likely have immediately and also in the short, medium, and long term, right? Because we need to be able to forecast in terms of what we need to do going forward, right? And what we needed to do to preserve public health, right? And the balance that would be needed between public health and continuing our lives, you know? Naturally, we could not continue how we were living, but in terms of being able to adapt, and to be able to adapt, we need credible information, right, in terms of what we could do. Right, so out of that, we were able to maintain our relationships while also being attractive to other potential customers, right? Then we were able to plan and execute some very informative webinars. And I want to mention two where we specifically looked at the labor market, because we know the labor market have a knock-on effect to everything that we do, right? Teaching and learning here at the university. And that particular labor webinar on the labor market, we used some technocrats and experts out of the International Labour Organization, the UWI itself, and the government of Jamaica. And it was quite timely as well for us we did a webinar looking at the educational system, right? I think that webinar was, the topic for that was how we remove some of the colonial underpinnings to our educational system. That was very informative, and we're very pleased that we could have our very own Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, Dr. Luz Longsworth, on that webinar, as well as the Vice Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, and other persons who took part in that. Coming out of those webinars, we got a lot of people, you know, trusting us more, and we sort of became like the go-to place for people to get information. Then we tried a blended approach for our programs. We had a physical and our online blended approach for our training workshops. And based on the feedbacks from that, we went fully online, particularly using, again, the technologies, Zoom. Then we were able to make our services, because again, because we're domiciled in Jamaica, we were traditionally just, while we serve the entire Caribbean, disproportionately a large part of what we do would be servicing Jamaica. So we're able now to offer all our services to the region because we're now online, right? And now we're even looking to develop that business line going forward post-COVID, because we're seeing where the interest has grown. So while COVID has really presented us with some challenges, I've seen where the university, and specifically the institute, because we would have centered our approach on servicing our stakeholders, both internally and externally. We're even seeing where we have opportunities coming out of COVID-19. So, you know, here at the Institute, we aim to serve our customers with class. You know, first, a key part of that is listening to them and doing the requisite research to have a better understanding of the space that we live and operate in now, work and also play, because again, life has to continue, is an important facet. And persons who have young children, they would understand the challenges that COVID posed in terms of the children not being able to play, or even us as adults not necessarily being able to undertake the things that we normally do. So our research informs the training programs that we execute and how we seek to inform public policy in a positive way throughout the Caribbean.
Thank you very much, Dylan. And you know, as I listened to you, I really started to think about what you said. You talked about the importance of listening to the staff, listening to the stakeholders, and using that information, what you've gathered, to go wider astream, to do some research, and then to come up with a solution. And I particularly like what you talked about, the challenges of COVID, really turning the challenges of COVID into opportunities. So thank you very much. Now we have some questions, and colleagues, I'm reminding you, our listening audience, to please send your questions and your comments in so we can have our team address them. So I'm going to start with a question to Professor Landis, and then I'll come to the campus. And the question is, Professor Landis, how will the university continue to ensure this level of quality is maintained, as there seems to be no end in sight to the pandemic and the new normal? Professor Landis.
I'm smiling because I'm wondering into how much detail I should go and whether people are interested in having a update on the COVID-19 pandemic. I am tempted to show one slide, if I may. Will you,
Just,
will you let me do that?
can we give Prof. Sharon, please, so that he can share one slide? Yes, you can share, Prof. Go ahead, please.
Okay, just open this. Okay, can people see my slide?
Yes, we're seeing it, Prof. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I just want everyone who's in the Caribbean to take this in. I know that some countries have experienced outbreaks and have community spread, but the overall picture of the Caribbean remains one of remarkably competent and scientific management. And nothing could really illustrate this better than an analysis that I did today looking at COVID-19 deaths per standard population size. So when you normalize to population size, you can then compare between small and big countries and even regions. So look at the deaths per million in the US and in South America. It's over 700 deaths per million due to COVID-19. Now, many of the Caribbean countries have 0 deaths. So they don't even feature on this particular graph because they're somewhere on the bottom. And if you look at the countries, and I haven't included all because it gets a bit crowded, especially since they're all lined up on the bottom. But countries like Antigua, Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, they're really managing this epidemic very well. And deaths per million is considered more accurate than cases because it doesn't really depend on the vagaries of having the testing capacity. And it's really only the Bahamas, which possibly due to its very close proximity to the US, which is having a sizable problem. So looking at the way that the Caribbean has managed the epidemic, my recommendation is that we continue in the same systematic way that the countries and the university which operates within the countries, that we continue in a similar vein. Our own projection, which I gave to the university management just last week, is that we will need to maintain the same sort of high flex system of teaching across the whole university. And that allows different campuses, depending on where they're at, to either shift more online or shift more to face-to-face, like we have in Barbados. And the same is really true of exams. So in your case, well, clearly your teaching is almost all online anyway, and so are your exams. So I think we would look to continue this. Most people believe that this epidemic will get considerably worse in the Northern Hemisphere over the next 4 or 5 months, and that the absolute apex is probably going to be in the winter months, maybe January, February of 2021, and it will calm down a bit after that. Even though the vaccine is due to come to be approved next year, it's almost certain that we wouldn't be seeing that until maybe the second half of the year. So all the way into the next academic year, I can see us continuing with the same measures that we've had up to now, which are really designed to keep everyone safe and healthy, and also to allow teaching and learning and assessments to be accessed in an equitable way by all of our students. So that would be my answer.
Thank you very much, Prof. And if I were to ask the same question to my open campus colleagues, how can you continue as a campus to ensure that the quality is maintained even in this COVID period? Who wants to go first?
Let me take a first stab. Well, you know, Dr. Doughton, as we love to say, the elephant in the Zoom is always the financial realities, and that has affected the higher education sector throughout the world. I think we have to take courage. I think we have to be hopeful in the fact that we are still here today. And if you hear some of the, you know, the feedback we get from our friends in other universities globally, they are always quite surprised, nay, shocked, that in spite of all of these financial travails, that we continue to excel in the Times Higher Education rankings. I think we have to bring that same courage to what we do. And if I follow faithfully and diligently the definition that we have of quality, the whole aspect of commitment to striving for excellence in teaching, in research, in innovation, public service, intellectual leadership, outreach, governance, and administration. I think if we can keep our eyes focused on these aspects, if we can continue to provide the experience that our students are sort of wanting to embrace and what they desire, I think that in itself can give us the fillip for continuing in terms of what we do. I am very confident in our colleagues. I think our strength resides in the commitment, the faithfulness, and the diligence of our staff. And it is, as Deputy Principal, this is the faith that I have, that we believe that we have a stake in this, our students included, and therefore we're not going to let it fall apart. But we have to, all the while, in spite of the financial constraints, we have to prioritize in certain areas, and teaching, of course, learning, and giving our students the experience that would want them to pass on the good news of the open campus to others. Everything else, in my mind, will fall in line.
Thank you, Deputy Principal. And as you spoke to the students, I want to come quickly to Chloe because I really want to hear from her as the student on this panel. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pamela Doughton. I actually had my hand up because I wanted to add to what Dr. Francis Sevin said. So I was thinking, as a student leader, on one end, the way that we could ensure that the quality that we've offered is maintained is by continuing to listen to the students, continuing to be their ears, their advocates. And then on the other end, by continuing the, I would say, amazing collaboration that we've had with administration to ensure that students are heard, students' voices are heard, they're represented. So I think that is what we will do to ensure the quality that we have offered, or to even make it better.
So you're really speaking about effective communication going forward and involving the students. Susan, what do you have to add?
Thank you, Dr. Doughton. I want to agree with Chloe and Dr. Severin because I recall reading an article where the CEO of Virgin Airlines was interviewed, and he was asked the question, what makes Virgin Airlines and yourself such a successful entrepreneur? And his response was that he listens to the man on the ground. In this case, the man on the ground would be our students and our staff, not management, but the students and our staff. And from what is said on the ground, then management can make a decision in the best interest of the campus going forward.
So it's important, I'm hearing from you that it's important to engage with those persons who interact with our students, those persons who do all the processes that sometimes we don't know anything about, to engage with them as we go forward, to not only maintain, but to enhance the quality of what we're offering. And I'm going to go to Dylan, because I remember when Dylan spoke earlier, one of the first things he said is that he listened. They started by listening. So Dylan, what do you want to add?
Well, Doc, I want to introduce even something a little bit different to the conversation, in that the university operates, I suppose, as a microcosm of the wider Caribbean society. And to the extent that the Caribbean is affected and impacted by COVID-19, and there are some other things that are outside the remit of our control, particularly in Jamaica here, we have been suffering the effects of about 3 weeks of continuous rainfall, right? That has had a significant impact. And we normally would make some plans for this because it's a yearly thing in the hurricane season. But taking into consideration what PBC Landis just introduced, right? And we see how we are managing the effects of the pandemic. We have to use that information now to see how it is that we can balance, right, managing public health with economic activity that Dr. Severin would have spoken about. Because at the end of the day, we need to still continue living, right? People still have, various ambitions in terms of wanting to study and learn and advance in their careers. And that will take some amount of financial underpinnings to get that done. And in terms of the fallout from COVID, in terms of we are so heavily dependent on tourism, remittances, and we see the numbers of what is happening in Europe, in North America. So now we have to look at how we are managing the pandemic here in the Caribbean, look at our industries in terms of how it is we can maybe build new channels, similarly like how the universities see, okay, how can we now bolster our students and maintain their participation in the university so we mitigate against that fallout. Similarly, because we are a part of the Caribbean, the institution, a smaller part of it, and there's a knock-on effect in terms of what affects the country will affect the university. We now have to lend ourselves through research and advice to the governments in terms of what is it that we can do to, boost economic activity so that families and people can still work and earn, so they can still fulfill those ambitions that the university will help them to do.
Yes, thank you very much, Dylan, because you actually brought us to a very interesting point. Because when you started to talk about the loss of remittance, as people say, from foreign, and the fact that our tourism industry, which the majority of us depend on, is almost crippled, I can see where the UWI, as the brains, if you like, of the countries of the region, has a very important role to play in helping the region to move past the COVID-19, to see the avenues that are available. So thank you very much for raising that very interesting point. Ernika, as I come to you, I'm coming to you last, but I know you work on the face, if you like, of APPAD. How can we maintain the quality or even enhance the quality?
Thanks, Dr. Dawson. I'll mention again the importance of listening to our students and working along with our students. So Dr. Seven would have expressed how very proud he is of the Guild, and I echo the same sentiment. Their ability to organize themselves and to represent the students and to maintain a relationship with the administration is really to be applauded. Just this morning, for instance, I got a message from the Guild president about an issue that's occurring in a class. And so it's just a matter of us to continue to work along, case by case as needed, course by course as needed, program by program as needed, to listen to what the needs are. In our communication with students, we continue to see where students are stressed, where it may be financial stress or fears of what's happening in their country. And one of the things that we're doing today, this evening, we actually have one of our facilitators, Dr. Joy Wilson, who's going to lead a special student meeting that is focused simply on stress management and coping strategies. So again, it's just a matter of listening to what the needs are of our students, of our fellow co-workers, of our colleagues, because as we cannot serve our campus and the wider Caribbean region if we ourselves are not okay. So it's to listen to each other and find different ways that we can support. So I did mention how we can and currently still are reaching out to various institutions in the region to support them with their transition to online. So those very basic things, starting off with listening to where the needs are, that is what we will continue to do. And that's what we have been doing. And this just gives us an opportunity now to really hone in on our ability to listen and to adjust and to work towards meeting the needs of our students, our facilitators, and the wider region.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm hearing listening and support. And for those viewers out there who are wondering how they can get the support from the UWI Open Campus for the training and the online teaching and learning, please know that that can be done through the principal's email address, which is principal@open.uwi.edu. So I'll repeat that again, principal@open.uwi.edu. So in our last few minutes, I'm going to ask each panelist once again, in about 2 minutes, to tell us what we got right as a university or as a campus, and one thing that we can do to make what we got right even better. So for those persons, again, who are looking for training in the online to teach and learning in the online teaching and learning environment, you can contact the Open Campus at principal@open.uwi.edu. And I'm going to turn over to our panelists. We're going to go in the same order as we went in initially. So tell us very briefly in 2 minutes what we got right as a campus or as a university as a whole, and one thing that we can do to make what we got right even better. So I'll start with our student.
Thank you, Dr. Dalton. What we got right, I could sum it up in one word: we listened. We listened a lot and we delivered. We gave the students what they needed or what they communicated that they needed during this difficult period, and we delivered. So what I would say, or what I would recommend for us to even enhance that quality that we offered, again, is listen even more. As a student leader, I know the importance of listening to students, empathizing with students, showing them that this is not just about learning. It's not just about opening books and studying. We showed that we were very empathetic. And speaking in terms of the guild, I think we really empathize with students where it concerned the financial burden that the COVID-19 put upon all of us. We gave grants. We are still in the process of giving grants. And more than likely, there will be more to come. So I think generally what we need to do to enhance what we've already done is continuing to listen, continuing to collaborate with each other, and I'm talking about admin and the guild, and continue to deliver what we know that the students need at this point.
Thank you very, very much. Prof?
Yeah, I want to just say that we continue to engage in the quality policy and the implementation framework, because that policy has a plan, do, check, act framework. And from that, so let's take the example of moving all exams online. So we had a short time to plan that as a university. We did it. So that's the plan and the do. Then we checked how that went, which is what we've been doing over the past few months. And now we're feeding that back into improved exams. And there's no question that we need to improve some of the online assessment capacity. of the university. So even the open campus, for example, wouldn't have proctored online proctoring software, which we've tested and are happy with. We're currently conducting pilots. So really, the quality process is never one that you're satisfied with. It's a continuous process. So I think we just continue to engage with the quality policy and the Plan, Do, Check, Act framework. And then every cycle of improvement, it just gets slightly better and better and higher quality.
Thank you, Prof. Renika?
I am here just nodding my head as my colleagues speak. And as Prof. Landis mentioned, quality is continuous. It brought to memory the quality today, actually from your office, Gregory Jones. One of the things that he mentioned is that quality is a continuum. We continuously need to strive to keep striving for excellence in customer service. It is a moving target. Therefore, the onus is on us as individuals within the OC. Each one of us need to adhere to that plan, do, check framework that Professor Landis mentioned. And I would add the listening bit. Listen, then we can plan from what we heard the needs are. Actually execute and check to see how effective that was and how it can be improved, and continue listening and go through the cycle. I'll end with that because I think all of the things that we aspire to do would fit into that framework.
Thank you very much. And you know, as she mentioned, Gregory Jones and the quality thought, one of the things that we've been doing during this period is that we've had a quality thought coming out at least once a week. And in the last few days, we've had one come out every day. And the one today was written by Gregory Jones. So we thank him very much for that. Dr. Severin?
Yes, thank you very much. I think if we can isolate three related items, if you will, that we got right and that caused us to sort of bridge the tyranny of distance, it would be our staff home-based work arrangement that allowed them to continue business without much pause. It would be the moving of our in-person CPE students to remote teaching, online, student support training generally. And if you look at those three, they come, of course, they can be summarized as student and staff care. And I think in treating those things and addressing them, we're able to overcome the tyranny of distance. One thing that I think we can do even better, and I do believe that we have made great strides, but as you say, it's a moving target. It's work in progress, you know. It is the element of customer service where each member of staff at all levels recognize that we are all responsible for our major and fundamental clientele, our students. We are because of our students. They are raised on debt. And I think we have to strive further in this philosophy and the action that goes with it of customer service. Everyone is responsible for each student. So the sensibility that this is above my pay grade, or this is not my department or my area, we have to banish that in total. And I think if we move towards that, then we would be at a better place. And finances, all of those things apart, our students will tell the good news of the open campus and the University of the West Indies in general, because our fate and our fortunes are inextricably bound. So thank you very much, Dr. Doughton and my fellow panelists.
Thank you very much. Susan?
Thank you very much, Dr. Doughton. Quality is important in every institution, in every business, in whatever we do. Persons pay for quality. As it relates to the University of the West Indies is a brand name, and as such, quality has to be paramount in whatever we do. I've noticed since the COVID-19 pandemic that communication, or I should say information sharing, has been peaked, and that is very important. So we got that right. What I would want to see going forward is and this doesn't mean that we're not caring, but a more caring environment, because yes, we do things and we care about others, but we need to ensure that this is a constant action. So it should not be caring because we are in a COVID-19 pandemic, but we should extend care throughout the year, even when COVID has passed. And that will improve the rating of the university, because as I've said, we are already a brand name, so quality has to be at the forefront. But we should ensure that each student that comes through the doors of the university left with a sense of belonging. We should minimize the complaints that students would have.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And last but not least, Dylan.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Dottin. What I think the university has done tremendously well is that we have been proactive. So we have been able to act first out the gate in terms of making the requisite changes to be able to serve the needs of our clientele, our constituents. That is very important. What I think we need to do going forward, or do more of going forward, is ensure that we keep our collective fingers on the pulse, so that in terms of whatever new situation, circumstances prevail, that we can be the first, right, to act. So if it's in relation to our customers, right, we can be the most attractive in the marketplace. We can be the go-to entity for training, for information, for whatever it is, in a positive way, right? And also what I want to say is that what we have done right, and I don't, this predates COVID, I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to our principal and the management team of the university, specifically Open Campus, in that we were able to, we had foresight in terms of how we would have organized ourselves, right? Dr. Severin, some of this credit has to go to you too, based in terms of even the accreditation that we'd have undergone from 2012, and Dr. Dottin, yourself. So a big shout out to the entire management team, and specifically our principal, Dr. Longsworth. And long may we continue to be trendsetters in the region and grow from strength to strength.
Thank you very much. That's a really nice note for us to end on. And yes, we do shout out our principal, Dr. Luz Longsworth, and we do thank the management team for all the support. But just as I summarize, one of the things that really stuck in my head was this phrase: we are because of our students, and I added, we are because of our staff. And you know, as you spoke and as Prof spoke, and we reflected on the quality policy, you know, we need to listen more. So we need to plan for that listening activity. We need to do what we are saying that we're going to do, so that's our fitness for purpose. We need to ensure that we act, and we need to ensure that we check. So our plan, do, check, act. And if we continue to do these things systematically, routinely, one of the things that we will find that because of the high quality, we'll protect our brand, which is the brand of the UWI. And as Dylan rightly said, we will continue to be the first choice for our customers, because one of the things that we want to ensure that happens is that any student, any tertiary level student, or any person that wants to go to tertiary education within the region should be saying, I want to go to the University of the West Indies. It could be St. Augustine, it could be Cayfield, it could be Mona, 5 Islands, open campus, obviously, but there are 5 campuses. And so we want that choice to be a choice for the UWI as we go forward. So we are because of our students, we are because of our staff. And with that mindset, we will continue to ensure quality care, quality customer service for our internal and external stakeholders. Colleagues, I want to thank you very much. The panel, I want to thank you very much for spending this time with us. Our viewers, we want to say thank you. If you want to have any additional information, if you want to find out about the training that's available, you just need to write to us at principal@open.uwi.edu. Thank you very much.